Tell me, Elkentaro, truly how you feel about that. The hacker part is like burn the world.
It's dark matter and Elkentaro.
Thank you very much. It's 6:30 here in the morning on a Saturday morning. Lovely Saturday morning. Unusually warm weather here in Tokyo. How are you, my friend Iceman?
I'm fine, for goodness sake. You know what? I don't know how it is in your part of the world, but we got snow.
Ooh.
We got tons and tons of snow, and that hasn't been here for years. So it's a white Christmas for Iceman. Oh,
that's funny because today supposedly we're gonna have summer weather here in December.
Wow!
And anybody says,
"Are you in the Northern Hemisphere?"
Yeah. If you take a line straight across to Europe, I think we're somewhere in France, maybe.
Oh, that north. Cool. Because I had an interview with Evil Demon, and he's from Australia, and he was like, "Yeah, I had like 29 degrees in my office right now."
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah.
Yeah, we're on the border. I'm on the border between France and Spain-ish. But yeah, Australia is weird because it gets warmer the more north you go. I never understood that.
Yeah, well,
you go north, it gets warmer. It's just like, huh?
Yeah, south is a cold place. You know why? South is a warm place.
Yeah, I know, right? So once again, Dark Matter is missing. He's missing in action.
Our partner in crimes is gone. I'm so sorry for that.
He's like, screw you guys. I'm gonna go to the beach. The last couple videos we have released have been a stellar success, especially the Flipper one, and people seem to love Flipper content. So we're considering of rechanging the show to the Flipper Shit Show, and we only cover Flipper news all day long, every week. Okay.
We're gonna have an intro with just dolphin sounds, the Grand Blue, it's like, oh look, you can capture signals. Speaking of which, I heard that Dark Matter was at Black Hat EU in London right now at the Arsenal. Pavel and the genuine Flipper people were actually doing demonstrations of Flipper there. Speaking of Flipper,
I heard that went insanely popular. So
I saw the picture. It was like crazy people.
Yeah, so, I think we'll see more Flipper in the news. I did find a couple of news articles of schools trying to find out what the device that all the kids are using. I'm just like, oh God, it truly has reached that stage. I wonder how many people ask for a Flipper for Christmas this Christmas,
and how many will actually get one because supply and demand, man.
Yeah. I survived a week of hell. My family all came down with the flu, despite the fact that they were vaccinated for the flu. Turns out this year's flu is especially strong. And even with
that sucks, man. I'm so sorry for you. I hope they're all well.
Dude, Microsoft might have their patch Tuesdays. I had vomit Tuesdays. It's just like everywhere. Turns out my cat,
too much information here now.
My cat is going like, oh, everybody vomiting, me too. And just hairball, just like, oh, God.
He had a big swab going around like
I was like, this house is now considered a biohazardous zone right now.
This house is possessed.
Work has been catching up with me. End of the year is always a bit busy for me because my Western clients, they shut down for Christmas, but Japan shuts down after Christmas. So almost 2 weeks of work that can be done toward late December till early January, because when Japan shuts down over the New Year's, it truly shuts down. There's like banks closes, ATMs are shut down.
I don't know if it's because I've been speaking to you or something like that, but all of a sudden my feeds everywhere on the social medias, different platforms, it's like showing me links of how good it is to live in Tokyo, how decently cheap it is to live in Tokyo, and how decent people are.
They are listening into everything.
They are listening in, aren't they?
It's gotten more open since the last 10 years or so, but when I was a kid, it really shut down for like 2 weeks. Japan, like people go to the office on like the 27th, and that's the last day, and they wouldn't come back until like the 8th or the 7th. And during that time, nothing was open. There was no stores open, there were no banks open, there were no post offices open, and stores would just open up on the 3rd or the 4th. Now it's gotten a little bit shorter. People keep working until the 28th maybe, and then the stores close on the 1st, but on the 2nd day they're open and whatnot. So yeah, so and everybody goes home. So it's like everybody goes back to the countryside if they're from the countryside. Tokyo during New Year's is one of my favorite times because there's very few people here.
I don't know why you live in Japan where there are so many people if you don't like people. You seem to be an eremit. You don't want to be alone in a cave and it's where it's like growing a beard.
I don't want to hear shit from you, Tit. You're the one who looked like Unabomber on Dark Matter's Halloween party. Like Iceman had this gray hoodie on and just pulled it over, put some sunglasses on. I'm like, dude, you're the Unabomber.
Someone has to be an inspiration.
No, I like the anonymity that the big city offers me. All right, let's move on. Since it's just the two of us, we can't do all the new stuff that we want to cover. I did want to cover something that might be relevant, and I have a feeling that there's going to be a future Flipper app in it.
This is so typical of Flipper app coming up for this one.
I know, right? So MouseJack, which is almost an 8-year-old vulnerability initially found by the guys at Bastille, Marc Newlin, he released the initial white paper 8 years ago. And MouseJack, for those who are not known, when you have a wireless keyboard, there's a lot of wireless keyboard back then that came with like a dongle. It wouldn't connect over Bluetooth or any other known protocol. They had their own proprietary protocol. Logitech were known for this, that they have the unified communicator dongle, and you basically connected over that. Microsoft, they had their own proprietary dongle that had their proprietary protocol. They all use the 2.4 gigahertz band, right? Marc Newlin found a way to listen into the radio frequencies that it could do key logging to a certain degree, and it also could, I think, connect and send keystrokes. Because
isn't that part of that thing that someone else did that was with ClickJack when took over presenters, Logitech presenters, right?
Right. It's the same similar
concept, right?
Because back then, and still is, the Nordic Semiconductor, the NRF24L was a very widely known chip that all these transceivers used because that was like a cheap chip to provide a mechanism to do wireless data transmission between the two devices, right? Basically, they came up with a bunch of ways of listening into it, and then Crazy Radio came in without their USB dongle, utilized the same chip that had an antenna, so it had an amplified version, right? So it wasn't like a small dongle that you plug into a PC. This one was much more powerful, make it possible to do packet sniffing and injection attacks, right? So MouseJack was very popular for a while, but now Marc Newlin pointed out that back then MouseJack was focusing on the proprietary proprietary protocol used by these vendors using a 24 gigahertz dongle.
The wireless.
But they're all non-Bluetooth, right?
Protocols.
Now with the proliferation whatever. Bluetooth is now...
Say that once again. 7 times fast for me.
Now, because everything is Bluetooth, they went back and did a similar research surrounding Bluetooth keystroke injection on Android, Linux, Mac OS, and iOS. They got a CVE, CVE2023458866.
Don't you need your glasses for that?
Yeah, I do. But...
I can zoom in. It's like always
big fonts.
Big letters.
So Marc revisited his research and started with gaming keyboards and whatnot, and then he went to Apple's Magic Keyboard. Then I started doing all this other stuff, and he ended up finding similar keystroke injection vulnerabilities in Linux and Android. And he started to think that it wasn't an implementation bug, but it was more of a protocol flaw. Turns out that it's a little bit of both. The vulnerability works by tricking the Bluetooth host machine, which means the device you're connecting to, with a fake keyboard without user confirmation, right? The unpatched devices are vulnerable if they are Bluetooth enabled. On the Linux side, it has to be discoverable and connectable. And then on iOS and macOS, it has to be enabled, and a Magic Keyboard has been paired before. So it's still very limited. I mean, not the Mac OS side might be a little bit more vulnerable in the sense that a Magic Keyboard, which is their regular.
I can imagine, like, if an Android device is like that shit, I mean, how they could do
like
this.
if you have connected this to your Mac is vulnerable, but the likelihood of people connecting this to their iOS devices is a little bit lower because only writers.
Maybe iPads.
Yeah, iPads, definitely. Yeah. This and an iPad is one of my favorite writing.
Yeah. So anyone who noticed this show right now can see how elkentaro is bragging about his wealth. He's an Apple fanboy and showing off his enormous amount of money that he spends on those peripherals. Apples.
I don't want to.
Do you have a big screen as well, boy?
I didn't make millions for myself of the Proxmark. So
I wish.
See, this is not fair because what people don't see is that's the room in that gigantic castle you built in the outskirts of in the middle of nowhere of Sweden. With all that Proxmark money you made, people from down the village point at that, and it's like, yeah, that's Iceman and his Proxmark castle. Just show the little room to make it like more relatable. And I know your house is so fucking huge. I can see it on Google Earth. It's like this big blinking thing in the middle of nowhere in Sweden.
I think you're sadly mistaking me for dark matter. No, I was thinking about what you talking about right now with Bluetooth CD or MouseJack. What's it called? Is it called MouseJack for this?
Yeah, it is called MouseJack.
This is so going to be an app for.
I know, right? I mean, it is just
keyboard injections on flippers. Like you already have Rubberduck or bad USB.
It is waiting to be a flipper app, right?
Another of those nasty apps. That,
so far, what Mark has found is that Pixel 7 running Android 14, 6 running Android 13, 4A running Android 13, Pixel 2 running 11, Android 10. They're all vulnerable. Linux is even vulnerable for some of the Ubuntus. Chrome OS isn't, but there's a patch for Blues. Mac OS, MacBook Pro, Air, both running Mac OS 12 and 13 are vulnerable. And all of this has been disclosed. Like Mark, you disclosed it with the vendors. The vendors have in December 6th, so 3 days ago, this was a public disclosure. So this is waiting to be a flipper app, right?
The amount of shit that I had for this spamming thing, it was big threads on Twitter about the moral, or some people was blaming the vendors don't read shit, and then the specs, and then how you do it, and all that stuff. And this, I was like, yeah, this is another fiery pit to be started up. This is going to be burning again. It's going to be a nice Christmas for people.
I mean, given the fact that when the first MouseJack came out 8 years ago, I remember, I'm sure some of the viewers here are too young to even be born back then, but when the first MouseJack came out, I remember it being a big news items. There were a lot of tools divided.
Remember when the clickers, the presenter clickers and stuff like that came out, and they were like hijacking that and disrupting people's presentations and stuff like that. And I think it was a DEF CON saying like, please don't use this and all that stuff.
Yeah. So
turning off projectors and shit.
And considering the fact that the original one required you a little bit of more hardware prowess for the people to integrate. Now, given the fact that there's the flipper out there, you don't have to do like if you read the original MouseJack GitHub README, right? It says you have to flash the NRF 24LU1 plus chip with the bootloader, and then rewrite the firmware over it. They provide you a tool, or rewrite the Logitech unifying dongle, or a Tinsy with SPI. I mean, all of this is now compared to like somebody's going to write this up and release it as a as an app.
It's on the Flipper App Store, you know, so you just download it from there. It's a different story, isn't it? It's like the same thing with Apple. What was it? Apple. What do you call this little tracker things? What was that called again?
AirTags.
AirTags, yeah,
Yeah,
those. You know, when they hacked them for the first time, and
Yeah.
that's a hardware thing. You know, have to hook
Yeah.
up a AirTag and doing things, and you can flash it with your own phone and do more fun things, of course. In my world, there's a lot of Bluetooth things, that's enabled and stuff like that, and some presentations about how to disrupt and disturb Bluetooth enabled readers. That took some effort to do. If a hardware platform is there and people just want to do it and figure shit out, they will be able to do it.
Yeah.
Even if they have, HackRF or whatever you use today.
Like,
yeah.
I expect a lot more chaos next year around BLE. BLE was dead for a while. It's making a comeback for some odd reason, I feel like. And we had, we had people commenting on the Flipper video about, they blame the protocol or they blame the vendor implementation. I think it's a little bit of both of all sense. But once again, where convenience overruled security,
Well, I think, and I mean, Bluetooth has been around for 20 years now, right?
Yeah.
About in the middle of the 90s, and then the stacks became a little bit easier because I remember trying to do things and I didn't understand the whole software and SDKs. And then, given today, there's so much more easily for the entry. We mentioned it before, entry to do things is so much simpler. I think many of those protocols that were invented in the 90s and year 2000, which has been as a mature product lines nowadays, things that's in the standard of a protocol, that's how it works, and then someone comes up with a device that can do more disruptive instead of following the protocol. It's like, yes, let me inject multiple of these packages, and oh, you got a crappy protocol, and it's like, it was not designed for this.
I know, right? I mean, it's the Y2K bug all over again, right? I was like, I mean,
oh, speaking of which, the next bug coming up 2038 is getting closer, right?
Yeah.
It's only 14 years to that one now.
I hope to be away from the screen by then.
Protocol implementations. I think there's a bunch of new people having access to other mobile platforms.
And that too, but I also think what has happened is that the tools surrounding the protocol research is now much more available. Right?
Yeah,
you don't have to be like a hardcore reverse engineer with a bunch of dongles and probes that look into things that flying in the air. Like like I showcased the BLE sniffer from Adafruit, right? I mean that connects directly into Wireshark. So I mean that was a hard thing to do previously, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also before that technology was guarded by big corporations, right? Like Apple and Android and Google and that, and Ericsson and Sony and Huawei, and they limited what you could do because that's the purpose, make sure that nobody's going to break the protocol. And now you get a whole heap small devices it's insanely simple to program and enhance because they have adopted the same way of thinking, the model of software deployments, makerspace, and make your own small add-ons and stuff like that. I think that has changed so much. So all that is out of control, like before was guarded by this big corpse. It's now in the hands for, it's like the cyberpunk future when you see a Japanese cyberpunk movie from the 90s, whatever, and you see this, the big corp taking over, and then there's the legal hackers who's doing their own shit. That is almost what it is today.
Yeah, I think it's also that general basic computer literacy has gone up significantly.
Yeah, I don't know that. I would argue differently there. I would say,
so?
I'm looking at my own kids. They're very good in using computers, but they have fuck no clue of how a computer actually works and would be able to understand and pinpoint things out on a circuit board.
Yeah, but that's the whole discussion we had off the air a long time ago, I guess, that if
we did do it in SaintCon,
if the computers are water, how many people want to be plumbers, right?
Yeah.
But I think the entry to barrier, like for a long time, the stuff that we did looked like magic to people who didn't use computers.
Still is.
I mean, okay, it's but I think the baseline has gone up a little bit.
everybody who's watching us has skills, so I
Right.
think everyone you can leave a comment in below and on in the chat. I don't think my kids understand what I do, but if I give them an app or whatever, they can run it
Right.
and do things, but they wouldn't be afraid of using it. Like before, someone didn't want to touch a computer.
Right.
For that, zero threshold for that. It's like, well, yeah, I'm
I
gonna do that.
mean,
I'm gonna run that. I'm doing that.
We're fighting against 20-second TikTok dance videos.
OMW, on my way to you. Good at what I do. OMW.
So that's gonna be hard, right? That's the world we live in, I think. But I think the tools are now much easier to use. There's much more information out there. If I go to YouTube and I do, hold on, let me just do that for a second, see how many hits I get. Bluetooth hacking. How many videos do I get for that? Yeah, there's like a shit ton of videos.
And tons of them are showing Arduinos and right, which allows you to here's an Eno file and just flash it.
Yeah, I mean, like Kismet now is way more wider in coverage. You can use Kismet to detect Bluetooth stuff. So like I said, I mean,
yeah, you can.
I hate when so-called experts, like there's a news story by the SOC TV, Charlotte, North Carolina. They have a blog post about, because of the travel seasons coming up, that experts highlight the dangers of Bluetooth hacking while traveling. They had an expert go to the Charlotte Douglas Airport and scan for Bluetooth devices, and he has come back. It's like, in the 5 minutes, I have 570 entries of devices of people with Bluetooth on. And they go into this whole spiel of that, Bluetooth is vulnerable, that evil people can do evil things on you. And the final advice that the expert says, if you don't need Bluetooth, don't use it. That's not an answer, right?
That's a solid advice there.
That's like if you don't want to be hacked, don't use computers and go up in the mountains and hide from society, right?
Yeah, that's a solution, isn't it?
If you have a smartwatch, a lot of people do. They have either a Pixel Watch or an Apple Watch, or I have a Garmin, or a Sunto, or anybody, right? There's a lot of Bluetooth watches out there, or a lot of smart watches that use Bluetooth. I mean, you got to turn it off and not get a notification on your watch, because that's why you bought it for, right? Or headphones.
Yeah, how
many wired headphones do you see at the airport? Not many, right?
Like old-fashioned people like me, it's like
or audiophiles, right? Like, oh, it's better on over cable, I'm just like,
oh yes, like gold plater things.
Yeah, and it's the same. It's the same argument I had with when we were talking about the flipper in our previous video, saying, well, don't use Apple is not an edgy answer. It's like,
it's a stupid answer.
It's not an expert opinion.
Just go like this for Bluetooth scanner for people who doesn't know. Normally mobile phones and everything has a random ID, so
yeah,
it will actually change every time you scan it. So you will get very much more. And everybody has at least one or two phones. Your laptop has a Bluetooth. Your watch,
your Tile, or your location tracker devices,
your AirTag, and all that. Trust me, you have so many Bluetooth devices on you. Doesn't mean, since it's so widely spread, doesn't mean that it's bad technology. But people come up with a way to misuse it. That's sad. And is it responsible to do that? We're looking at this hard, what do you call this? Hard insulin pumps and hard pacemaker things.
Medical devices, right? Yeah.
But that sucks, because, like I said, people running things has zero knowledge in what we're doing, is running something and think it's fun. But what I think it's going to be for 2024 for this. Nowadays, they only use the built-in antennas and all that stuff. So my prognosis is for 2024 is actually people to start using big-ass antennas for Bluetooth and starting to do this on a big range. Otherwise, you have to be within line of sight. What is that? 25 to 50 meters, something like that. If you want to target one out of those 100 devices you're going to see in that field of view. So I think people are going to have a big ass antennas instead and make that more covered. And then you're going to have a bigger problem, because I think it was a DEFCON talk, 2010 or something like that, Kirsten Paget or something like that, showing reading of a Bluetooth beamer or something like that, beacon from 2.5 kilometers away. Once you get the distance, that's the scary part, I think. When it's close and you have small antennas, it's just a new annoyance, and
Right.
turning off Bluetooth
I
is
mean,
not the answer.
when I was doing research for recreating the Apple BLE spammer on my ESP32, I was like, I plugged in my sniffer, the screen just lit up, and 40% of my time was trying to sort out what signal I was looking for, right? I'm just like,
Yeah.
I was like this close to actually purchasing a Faraday cage. I was just like, I need a Faraday cage for this, because I like. So,
And here's the thing: what you know how to do this, you know how to capture things. Same with dark matter. You can look at the PCAP file with Wireshark. You can look at that and see what you're looking for because you
Right.
know how to identify things. However, most of the people who's doing these annoyances have no fucking clue. Just because there are no nuances out there, it's easily available tools, doesn't mean that they are competent. It's my whole circular argument now.
I think that's a valid point, and but I also think that the availability and the basic knowledge on how to use these tools, right? Like if somebody 20 years ago we time traveled and gave them a flipper, I'm gonna have a hard time trying to figure it out, right? Because there's no context surrounding it, right?
They would be able to run it very easily because super simple UI. But they wouldn't know what's going on, and they would have been more curious 20 or 30 years ago. They would have wanted to know, how does this actually tick? Well, it's not like on the same con, where it was hardware oriented, where everybody's very, interested in it. But at DEF CON, for instance, it's another conference you attend, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of people there, but how many of them actually do know this stuff? I don't say that they have to know it. I'm just saying that there's a level of knowledge that is not there.
But I think the availability of knowledge is a lot.
Yes.
Is a lot easier to compare to.
Yes, like you said, you have several thousand hits on YouTube for things.
So next year, I think we'll see a lot more Bluetooth hacks coming out. So I think that was a good talk about the Bluetooth stuff. One little notification I want to do is that I got these. Can you see that?
Hey, look at those! Those are some beautiful pins.
Can you see that?
Great Scott gadgets.
That's a HackRF One in a pin for the SDR fans in your life. If you're looking for gifts for their Christmas,
where could they get those beauties?
Accessories.com. It's like that right there. So this is hard to do.
I think those are great. How much do you think they are?
They're about 14 euros.
That's a perfect gift.
I know, right? 16 US dollars. Straight. Wonderful job.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's fucking awesome.